Welcome back, my friends, to yet another rambling tutorial. As you can see, we are starting this tutorial in the game about where we left off previously. Because today I want to show you a rather universal method for placing the user interface into world space. I will also be explaining a bit about harmony hooking and patching while we're at it. But it will be with the purpose of placing the UI into world space. Because, as you can see at the moment, everything is nice here. But once I press load game, it will just fill up the whole screen with the user interface, like it should for the flat screen game. But in VR it's just one giant texture wrapped in front of my face, which we do not want at all. Thankfully I'm still able to use this using an Xbox controller, because this game has controller support. I don't believe it works with the mouse in VR mode. Now let's just load the game and see if things are any better in game. I can't even see the main UI. I can see some kind of question, guest and garage. I can see a door icon, but I can't see the actual user interface, which is a problem. Of course, we want to be able to use this interface in our VR mode. If I press this button, like there's a few cards right beneath my field of view, etc, etc. So this is how it is before we do our stuff. So let's quit the game. This one wants to work for some reason, that's very nice. It even follows our head. But enough of that, let's get coding. So I reverted my project back to a previous state from before I did the UI fixes. And well, let's get over what we have to do. Today I'm just going to copy my code for it, which is an adapted version of Raicuparta's fantastic code. I will link both of these sources in the video description. Alright, so we've got our project set up now. What do we want to do? First we want to make some folders to keep things organized. I already made an UI folder and an UI manager, though I don't think we'll really be using it much today. Alright, now if we look at my previous code, I'm going to go to the UI folder, and we can see there's an attached UI class, a static UI, and a UI manager. There's also a patches folder. So let's create a folder first. UI, add, new folder. And let's call it patches. Let's also create two new classes, attached UI and static UI. So let's go here to UI, add, new item, new class. Let's call the first one attached UI, and let's call the second one static UI with a tiny I, because that's how it was in Raicuparta's original code. Alright, now that we've got our classes, let's see what's in the patches folder. Of course, there's a UI patches file. So once again, let's add an item, a class, let's call it UI patches. Alright, now that that's done, let's start with our patch. already got it selected. And indeed, let's just make the namespace a bit simpler. Let's just give it the VRMaker namespace. So the basics of working with patches, which I will also link in the description, are pretty simple. You're just going to have to follow a bit what I say and do here. So if you plan to include any patches in your project, which are very helpful ways to hook into the code of the main game and execute something either before or after it, or even prevent a function from executing. If you want to do this, you want to go to your plugin.cs and add this line: harmony create and patch all assembly get executing assembly. This will make sure that your patches are actually injected or executed, or they will be able to do whatever they need to do. So don't forget to copy this line. Alright, let's get back to our UI patches. So in this case, when working with patches, you always want to think, what function do I want to patch? What function will be a good place for my patch to execute? Now today we are trying to make some code happen whenever a UI canvas opens. The canvas are the Unity objects for UI, and as you can see here, KingMaker.UI canvas is the default class for canvases, and it has a start function. So let's just go over here, copy paste this. So before the function, we can either choose to make an harmony prefix or harmony postfix. As you might have already guessed, a prefix executes before the function executes, a postfix executes after it executes. In this case, we will want a prefix. Before we do anything else, I also forgot that we need to tell the program that this is a patching class. So let's first go to here and let's just copy harmony patch before the class definition. This is also required, otherwise it will not work. Before we do anything else as well, let's also make it recognize all the harmony stuff, for which we need to use certain libraries. We will need to use harmonylib. So let's just paste that here using harmonylib, and as you can see, it's working. It even recognizes KingMaker for some reason. That's very nice, so you don't need to input that separately. And after we've declared whether it's a prefix or a postfix, and after we've declared here the class name, which is UI canvas, and the class function, which is start, we can just define our function name. You can name this whatever you want. This is just the name of the function that will get executed as a patch. Now another way to define this stuff here, because this is the name of the function, but you can also just do name of, then the class KingMaker.UI canvas, and then your function name start. This will do the exact same as just putting start in strings here. Although putting start in strings here will also execute it if it's a private function. Well, with this method you need it to be public, or at least publicized, which is something else I will probably make a tutorial video about. Anyway, both of these will work. So we've got our patch set up. Let's just make the function do something. Another thing, if you want to be able to use the actual objects that you are patching, in this case the UI canvas, we need to give our function an argument of the object class VRMaker UI canvas and give it the name underscore underscore instance. So underscore underscore instance. This way we can use the instance as a reference to the class we are patching. Alright, now that we've done that, let's think about what we actually want to execute in this code. Now if we look at the example, we can see some stuff. So important enough, the first thing we want to do is actually get the canvas component from this instance, which is easy enough. So var canvas, var is like a universal variable that adapts itself to whatever it receives, if I recall correctly, equals instance dot get components of class canvas. Just close this stuff. Now it's not recognizing the canvas object because we did not include the Unity assembly, so let's include that real quick. Using Unity engine. And there we go, it immediately recognizes the canvas. So we've got our actual canvas now. What now? Let's check our code again. If the canvas is null, if the canvas is not valid, return, so quit the function. That sounds very reasonable. If not canvas, return. Don't need any brackets for this if it's just one line. So we've got our canvas, we've checked it valid. What now? This is something nice Raicuparta did, is checking if the canvas is to disable, because the function we are doing here will apply to every generic canvas in the game, every generic user interface. So there might be user interfaces that you just want to disable from showing up, or want to handle differently or something, which is why it's a nice idea to add Raicuparta's is canvas to disable code. So let's just copy it. If is canvas to disable canvas.name, then set canvas enabled false, which is the same as disabling it, and return. So now we need to do our make our disabling function. So let's go here. Is canvas to disable. And while we're at it, also copy is canvas to ignore. So this is in the namespace VRMaker in the class UI patches. And while we did include a harmony patch above it, this does not mean that every single function in here has to be a patch. We can also just treat it like a normal class and put in variables and normal functions. Alright, so now that we've put in a definition for is canvas to disable, as we did here, we can check what's wrong with this function, what it's missing. It's missing a canvases to disable array. Well, let's copy that over as well, which is here at the beginning of the code, which is an array of strings. So we've got a private static read-only string. Static, by the way, kind of means global, which is very handy. Canvases to disable. And here you can just put in your canvas.name, which you can find out using the runtime Unity editor and stuff. These are just the ones from Raicuparta, can copy this over if you want, you probably won't do anything. Feel free to add your own canvas names to this list later. Alright, our functions are working. We can go back to our main function now. So to recap, we got our canvas, we checked if it's null, and we checked if you want to disable it. So we don't want to disable it now. That means we want to actually run our code. Well, what's our code? It's another check first. If the render mode of the canvas is not a screen space overlay, then return. Just quit the function. Why this is, I won't bother you with that today, just include it. You'll find out eventually. Alright. So in this case I commented out some of his original code in order to simplify stuff, which means we only have to copy over this. Attached UI.create a static UI canvas variable with this scale. Which is why we made these attached UI and static UI classes. Now let's just wrap up the function first with a try and catch, which is something you do for exceptions, which is very handy for when things go wrong. Try. Oops. There we go. Try and then catch. Exception. Exception. And copy over this. And that should be our entire hook. Keep in mind, hooks can be much simpler than this or much more complicated. This is one of the more complicated ones. Well, no, it's not that complicated, never mind. Alright, so we still got to fix our function. First, let's fix this log stuff. These logs, because it is Raicuparta's code, references to his own custom logging class, which is a very handy thing to have, so I definitely recommend we make this right now, which is not hard to do at all. Just go back and go to the helpers folder, and there you can make a logs file. So go to VRMaker, add, new folders, helpers, add new class logs.cs. Now as for logs, just copy and paste this stuff in here. Mainly is Unity engine class VRMaker. It mainly just defines three functions, three static, so global functions. Write info, write warning, write error. And you can write normal text in here, but you can also pass any object you want inside it, like numbers or variables, and it will dynamically output it, which is very handy. Alright, let's get back to our UI patches. Our logs are alright, our functions are alright. The only thing we need to do now is actually implement the user interface logic. So we need to make a function for attached UI. Let's do that right now. Class attached UI, UI, what am I saying? Let's go back to UI, attached UI. We want to include Unity engine. Also possibly want to include our game assembly. Remove this UI from here. And we also want this UI to inherit from mono behavior. So let's call it UI like this. Mono behavior. This gives us access to stuff like the update function, which makes it update every tick, which is very handy. We want to define a variable, the target transform. I think this is just a holdover from Raicuparta's code, so copy it over anyway. And now we are going to actually create the function we want, which is create an attached UI class. Let's just copy it over. And as you can see, it looks like everything already works, which is great. But we also want this to follow along with our head, so we're going to do one extra thing, and is write the update function. This will get updated every tick, which will just call update transform, another function that we will write. Update transform. Now this is where you will actually do the logic of where your UI will be placed in the world. This will call every tick. So what I do is just get the camera from the game, which is a KingMaker specific code. You will want to adjust this for yourself. I will get the camera, I will get its transform.position, and I will add the camera's forward vector to it, which should give us a position which is slightly forward to where we are looking. And then as for rotation, I'm just giving it the camera transform rotation. Alright, this works. So let's see if we need to change anything to our static UI as well. And the answer is no. You will want to upgrade this over time and improve stuff. But what we have here should already have a working UI. A very basic working UI, which is why you came to this video, right? Alright, something went wrong when compiling. Static UI could not be found. Ah yes, this is because we need to adjust the namespace. So it like that. We probably also need to give this class its proper inheritance. Yes, we need to make it inherit from attached UI. There we go. And nice, it compiled. So let's see what happens now. Let's go to our bin folder, debug, net461, VRMaker. Let's paste it in the plugins. And let's check it out. Just a second while virtual desktop does its thing. As usual, Virtual Desktop is taking its sweet time, but we are ready. Let's launch the game and see what happens. Let's hope it actually captured my controller. Oh, if it did, that's good news, because sometimes before I fixed it, it would just ignore my controller. Alright, so what we are seeing here is a menu that's already in 3D, even before we did our VR stuff. So to check if our code actually works, we need to summon another menu, like the load game menu. And it does not seem to be working. We did something wrong. It's still connected to my face. Let's see if it's any better in game. Nope, we're still exactly where we left off, so let's check what went wrong. So if we go here, we can see that we have patched this thing correctly. Or not, you know, let's check our logs. Logs are usually very helpful. Let's find out where to look. So this is the start of our stuff. This is all standard game stuff. But it doesn't seem to tell us much at the moment. But that means there's also nothing going wrong with the patch itself, just something else. VRMaker binaries. Let's check our console. Everything seems to be going alright, except for those errors. It's still not working, alright. If this takes too long, I will edit a video to skip the boring parts. What else are we missing? Got our attached UI ready. We need to do nothing in the UI manager. Is our attached UI actually mono behavior? Let's check. It is mono behavior. Let's go to our patching again. See if we did anything wrong with the try and catch block. Doesn't look like it. Canvas should be correct. Let's change this over to start again, just to be sure. Would be strange if that's what's preventing it, but you know, I've seen weirder things. Right, so the issue might just be in the general plugin .cs. Yeah, that might be it. Messing up all our stuff. So let's not create a new camera manager object. Let's skip on that. My bad. It's built and everything. Let's go back to VRMaker.bin. Guess I'm going to leave this in anyway. For the lesson being don't ignore errors that seem unrelated to what you have, because this might just have fixed our problem. Still seeing a lot of errors. Then again, that's normal for this kind of mod at the start. It's still not working. Alright, yeah, this is going to be cut from the video. Local login info should work. Let's try it again. That's already less errors. Oh, it's starting to look like it's working. Yeah, it's working. I can already see it because something's flickering in the edge of my vision. Now if you press load game, you think there's nothing, but let me turn to my left. And there's a UI. There we go. Congratulations if you've managed to do this yourself as well. Now as you can see in the loading screen, the UI is flickering a bit, like there's some kind of triangle taking a bite out of it. Because this is a video on hooking as well, let's try and fix that too. Nice, as you can see, here is the main game UI. Wait, let me angle it a bit so you can see it a bit better. It's very dark, but it's alright. Let's go talk with someone. We can even interact with it using our controller. That's great. The voice acting works and everything. Alright. So now that that's almost working, let's improve it a bit and add some other hooks for readability, because this is not very readable. So in case anyone is wondering, the reason this did not work the first time is because I had some junk code left over in my plugin.cs that was causing errors in general. So the code itself you've just copied should all work perfectly fine if you adjust it to your project's needs. Alright, so while we are making patches in general, let's copy some special ones. I put mine in VRCamera camera patches, but let's make these in UI patches. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is make a patch to fix the near clipping, which is what was happening with our user interface. It was too close to the camera, so it started clipping. I'm going to make a harmony post fix, type of KingMaker view camera rake, so the camera rake class, and the onEnable function. Now here it complains that it does not have an onEnable function. That means that probably means that it's a private function, which means we can just use the strict libraries, or for the scope of this tutorial just use onEnable as a string. We want to use this function, camera manager reduce near clipping, which I put in the camera manager, which is just get the current camera, set its near clip plane and set its far clip plane. In this instance the near clip plane is of importance, but for other times you also want to set the far clip plane, which was a similar thing, but for things that are too far away instead of too close. This value works for me. This works for the far clip plane. The name game does not exist in the current context, very weird. Let's using VRMaker, let's add that reference. And suddenly it knows what game is, there we go. So I've reduced the, this is a postfix by the way, which happens after a camera is enabled. And let's make another nice patch. Let's see. What was the one I also added? I think it's in Camera Manager. Ah yes, it's in the patches. Let's add another patch that fixes the gamma, because it's horrible in VR. It only gamma adjusts for one eye and not the other. So let's do that as well. A postfix for gamma adjustments when it starts. Fix gamma. The only thing it does is it gets the instance of the gamma adjustment, which is a object, and we just set enable to false. We disable it. You can also adjust the shader to better adapt for both your eyes and everything, but we're not going to do that today. And just to be sure our controller always works, we're going to add this after initialize SteamVR. This is just something specific to my game. It has a controller support that's a bit wonky, so I just add this thing. Alright, so with our extra patches, let's build a project and see if our UI is approved. Game does not contain a definition for S instance. Alright, never mind about this. This requires you to have stripped publicized libraries for your game, which I will do another tutorial about sometime. VRMaker bin debug. Finder VRMaker plugins. And let's go check on our UI, shall we? Let's hope the controller works, otherwise you won't really be able to access the UI. Which has happened at the worst possible moments before, so I'm not going to think it'll never happen. So we fixed the gamma adjustment, which you probably can't see yourself, but is great on my eyes. And UI here is doing good. It does not seem to be flickering. No flickering here either, because we adjusted the camera clipping distance. And as you can see, the UI is there, it's glorious, it's in the right gamma stuff, we can even use it. And while it does not seem to follow our direction at the moment, it does somewhat follow our position and everything. You can toy with this yourself to improve it, but as it is already very usable. And as you can see, this seems to work for pretty much every UI element. This one follows our face, for example. Let's go to the spell book. You can even use this one. Your intelligence score is not high enough to cast first level spells. Oof. That's not smart at all. Alright. Well, I think that's enough. Also, you can see that even the UI here has improved a little bit. The UI when talking to people, the little pop-ups. They're still not perfect, but they're getting better. Alright, that was the tutorial for today. I hope you've learned something relevant for your own VR mods. And yeah, I just want to accentuate that this is some very general UI code, so they should be able to work with most games with only a little adjustment. And I wish you good luck in your VR modding. Until the next time, friends.